We are really upgrading humans into gods. We are acquiring, for instance, the power to re-engineer life.
All this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news. All this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news. All this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news.
We have all this still myth of free will, that everything we choose is of our own free will. And this is a myth that served us well for a couple of centuries, but now it's becoming dangerous.
We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens, because in the coming generations, we will learn how to engineer bodies and brains and minds. Now, how exactly will the future masters of the planet look like? This will be decided by the people who own the data. Now, why is data so important? It's important because we've reached the point when we can hack not just computers, we can hack human beings and other organisms. Now, what do you need in order to hack a human being? You need two things. You need a lot of computing power, and you need a lot of data, especially biometric data. But control of data might enable human elites to do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it. All of life, for 4 billion years, dinosaurs, amoebas, tomatoes, humans, all of life was subject to the laws of natural selection and to the laws of organic biochemistry. But this is now about to change. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds. The IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud, these are the new driving forces of evolution. And at the same time, science may enable life, after being confined for 4 billion years to the limited realm of organic compounds, science may enable life to break out into the inorganic realm.
Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. Free will, that's over.
That's over.
Today, we have the technology to hack human beings on a massive scale. Yeah, I mean, everything is being digitalized. Everything is being monitored. In this time of crisis, you have to follow science. It's often said that you should never allow a good crisis to go to waste, because a crisis is an opportunity to also do good reforms that in normal times people will never agree to. But in a crisis, you see, we have no chance. So let's do it.
Vaccine won't help us go
the
to
vaccine
the test, of course.
will help us, of course. It will make things, more manageable.
Surveillance, people could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and understand people better than they understand themselves. This, I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century.
By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it.
I think maybe in a couple of decades, when people look back, the thing they will remember from the COVID crisis is this is the moment when everything went digital. And if this was the moment when everything became monitored.
that we agreed to be surveyed all the time, not just in authoritarian regimes, but even in democracies. And maybe most importantly at all, this was the moment when surveillance started going under the skin. Because really we haven't seen anything yet. I think that the big process that's happening right now in the world is hacking human beings, the ability to hack humans, to understand deeply what's happening within you, what makes you go. For that, the most important data is not what you read and who you meet and what you buy, it's what's happening inside your body. So we had these two big revolutions, the computer science revolution, or the infotech revolution, and the revolution in the biological sciences. And they are still separate, but they are about to merge. They are merging around, I would say, the biometric sensor. It's the thing, it's the gadget, it's the technology that converts biological data into digital data that can be analyzed by computers. And having the ability to really monitor people under the skin, this is the biggest game changer of all.
What we have seen so far, it's corporations and governments collecting data about where we go, who we meet, what movies we watch. The next phase is the surveillance going under our skin. Mass surveillance systems established even in democratic countries, which previously rejected them, and we also see a change in the nature of surveillance. Previously, surveillance was mainly above the skin. Now it's going under the skin. Governments want to know not just where we go or who we meet. Above all, they want to know what is happening under our skin. What's our body temperature? What's our blood pressure? What is our medical condition? Now humans are developing even bigger powers than ever before. We are really acquiring divine powers of creation and destruction. We are really upgrading humans into gods. We are acquiring, for instance, the power to re-engineer life. All this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news.
This makes you into something. You'll accept a lot of things. But if you believe you're created in the image of God, that there's a heaven, a hell, a God in heaven, it affects your life. Evolution is the backbone to transhumanism. It's vital. Take away evolution, you don't have transhumanism. It destroys it. But you realize all the men who believe in transhumanism began with evolution. Second of all, Pharmakeia or Pharmakeia, depending on how you want to say it. You see, evolution destroyed a generation in their education. Pharmakeia is destroying us mentally, medically. It's using the medical profession to destroy a generation. Listen to what it says in Revelation again about this same system that's going to have a mark of the beast, that's going to have an image, that's going to have world power. It says in Revelation 18:23 about when God judges Babylon, the capital, the city, the mega city. Babylon's going to be the center of world wealth. Listen to what it says in Revelation 18:23. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. This is when Jesus comes back to destroy Babylon. He's going to destroy that city. It's an entire civilization, a new culture with transhumanism dominating it. But notice what it says. By thy sorceries were all nations deceived. Babylon the Great, at her destruction, at her end, God is going to accuse her. You deceived all nations through your sorcery. What does the word sorcery here mean in the Greek? It is the Greek word pharmakeia. It's where we get our word pharmacy or pharmaceutical. This is the actual word. And this is one of the reasons God destroys Babylon. And in fact, it shows this is how Babylon managed to deceive every nation, an entire generation, and draw them into this. How did they ever manage to deceive them? Yes, by supernatural signs and wonders, but also by pharmakeia. You see, I believe that pharmakeia is connected to transhumanism. It's going to be a vital part of deceiving people to make them to accept transhumanism. It's going to be connected to it. It's going to be the means of blinding your eyes, of shutting your ears, of closing your mind. And once you're in that state, they're going to mark you with this world system. The word pharmakeia is used 5 times in the New Testament. Once in Galatians, it's a sin of the flesh. So it's not just a thing, but it's an action. It's a way of operating. But also 4 times in the book of Revelation. Listen to what it means. It means the use of medicine, drugs, either for spells, for sorcery, for witchcraft, or for drug-related sorcery. Notice here in Revelation 18, it said all the nations are going to be deceived through pharmakeia, or we could say pharmaceuticals. I believe in this last hour, the 2020s, the pharmaceuticals, this use of pharmakeia is going to be so used to deceive nations. I mean entire nations, to bring them into the system of the one world government. Notice what it says about them. It says, thy merchants were the great men of the earth. That is who spread the pharmakeia, or used sorcery to deceive the nation. Who was it? Was it the doctors? Oh no, it was the merchants who done it. Merchants means those who buy and sell, or the traders. In fact, it said your traders, your businessmen are the greatest men in the world. Not just great men, they are the very greatest. They are the most known, they are the richest, the most powerful, the most influential. It is these tradesmen of Babylon, of this last world government, who are going to use pharmakeia to deceive an entire generation. You may say, that's crazy to think. How do you ever think this is going to work? Because you know what, if only you knew what's happened over the past 150 years, you would tremble at what governments have done that you don't know about. There are sinister elements that I want to tell you about. How is pharmakeia now affecting our world? Let me tell you about one of the great men, just one of them. There are many, but just one of them who's a businessman who buys, sells, makes money. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation made a major change in notice the date, March 13, 2020. On March 13, Bill Gates removed himself from the...
But we are now trying to create inorganic entities, inorganic life forms, cyborgs, artificial intelligence, and so forth. If we succeed, and there is a very good chance we will, then very soon we will be beyond the God of the Bible.
Something that I often ask myself, when was the last time you drank a glass of water to the glory of God? That you relished a glass of water to the glory of God. When you drank it knowing it is a gift from God. It comes from Him and is to return to Him in praise. In a sense, we are to be reminded of Him every time we think, every time we look down at our hands and feet, every time we attempt any endeavor, we are to do it to the glory of God. There has never been a time in the life of Paul Washer that I have loved God as He ought to be loved. And there has never been a time in the life of Paul Washer that I have glorified God as He ought to be glorified. You see, it changes everything, doesn't it?